take a few minutes now and let's reflect on what we've been talking about here. When we think about what it is that you're looking for, what it is that you're working towards, I want to just you to take a minute, and maybe you can write this down to consider and ponder later. I think you'll already know the answer to most of these questions that I'm going to mention here, since you've already probably had to consider all of these when you started your aromatherapy business. And the first question is, why do you want to write a book? I mean, it's something to consider, but I happen to believe it's a necessity these days. Let's just say right off the bat, it's not about you, okay? It's about being the answer to another person's question. Have you ever typed a question into Google? Think about that. I have many times. And all the pages that come up on that are part of the answer or are trying to answer your question. And hopefully it will get you where you want to go. So when you're thinking about why do you want to write a book, think Google. It has become everyone's magic 8-ball. When people type in a question, your book should come up as their answer. Number 2, what is your book about? When I first started writing, I was all over the map. I wrote a book on babysitting, gardening, women's journals, teacher curriculum books, how to make money, girls going through puberty, and an agent told me, Becca, you need to pick one genre. You're all over the bookstore, and nobody can find you. I would just say to him, no, I love all these topics. Oh, I can't pick one. But in the end, he was right. I had spent the best years of my writing career wasting a lot of energy and never building a following and a brand. I needed to narrow down my focus and my scope to one thing. And when I discovered aromatherapy and essential oils about 12 years ago, I knew that was it. So how do you find the topic you want to write about? I touched on this a little bit earlier, but if you're still sort of stuck, I'm going to share a little secret with you that I use. I go to Google Analytics and I use keywords in my topic or field. Typically, if I search for the term that you're looking up, for instance, let's say it's less than 100,000 searches for that term or word a month, you're probably not going to get much in the way of writing a national bestseller because there's just not enough markets to support it. But I don't follow that principle to the letter because I will search for something, let's say organic. I did a Google for that, and it brought up, I think it was 90,000 people in a month search for organic. And then I put in beauty, and I saw that 301,000 searches came up for beauty. Now, my book that I wrote several years ago was called Organic Beauty with Essential Oil. So when you add essential oil to that, now, here's the mistake I made. I used essential oil singular. 27,000 searches a month are for essential oil. But when you Google essential oils with an S, it's a whopping 301,000 searches. That's a lot more than essential oil. But I was sort of hung up on the title. I wanted it to be Organic Beauty with Essential Oil and so on. And so that should tell you something. Just by adding an S to the end of that word made all the difference in the world when it came to the title search. So you need to title your book something that people are looking for. If you can't get it in the title, then by all means, use a subtitle that contains the phrase you're going after. Now, Amazon is also a search engine. Many people don't realize that, but that it is one of the largest search engines in the world, and that so much of the market share is by Amazon now. And you want to make sure that you look there as well when you choose your book title and subject. In fact, you should just go ahead and go over there, take a look, put in your topic or your subject, and see what comes up. Look at the books that come up on that and see what is out there. Find out how many books are out there. How are they doing? Where's their ranking in sales? Are people writing reviews about them? Basically, you want to know, are people buying them? That's what you want to know. And then I used to buy every book on the market. I mean, if I found a topic I wanted, I'd go up there and search for everyone out there and try to find them, read them, study them, find out what's working, what's not working, where can I make a change or twist or some kind of improvement to those subject matters so that my book would be sparkling, fresh, and appealing to the audience. And speaking of audience, who is your target audience? Hopefully, you already know who your audience is from your aromatherapy business that you're running. But if you don't, you really need to stop and go back and find out who they are. If you have a Facebook page for your business, see who likes your page, who's following you. If you can, run an ad for your proposed book title and see how many people click on it. You can even do a split test for images for your book cover and see which one gets the most attention. This is just a simple way to put a little money, a few, $20 or whatever out there, try it and just see what comes back. Now, my audience is women ages 35 to 55 who have disposable income. Maybe they're starting a new career or they're entering a new phase in their life. Maybe they're changing their diet, lifestyle. They're looking maybe for a second income or divorced, and maybe they just want to do something different to make a difference in the world. Many, if not all, are looking for cures and answers to their health issues, and they want me to show them how to do it. They want quick answers to which oils to use, and that's why I wrote Therapeutic Blending with Essential Oil. It includes a matrix for hundreds of illnesses, and it gives them the quick list. They want it simple. They don't want it complicated. They don't want me to hold anything back. They are willing to spend the money and pay more for my book if you will show them and can prove that it's worth the investment. Now, Organic Beauty with Essential Oil book did extremely well. It was it came to number 1 and number 2 in the bestseller rank of aromatherapy a couple of years ago. It stayed there for quite a long time. It was doing excellent. It outsold all my books. It made more money for that one book than all of my books combined in a month. Now, that particular book was for a younger group of ladies, but they were the ones who still enjoyed making body and bath products. See, the older ladies preferred having them made for them. So I knew that I was dealing with a different audience, slightly different, but same genre. So I worked on a series of books that were, if you can tell, my titles are all about with essential oil. And so today I have How to Lower Blood Pressure with Essential Oil, Healthy Cooking with Essential Oil, Organic Beauty with Essential Oil, Therapeutic Blending with Essential Oil. That's my series. And so when I was out there searching, I was looking for things that may be in the competition for the book. I spent hundreds of hours on Amazon studying trends, watching every internet marketer get in on this Kindle Gold Rush, but it's all good. You see, the cream still comes and rises to the surface, and the best books always prevail. And that's the wonderful thing about this, is that even though there's a lot of crap out there, pardon my word, but that's what it is. Fortunately, the great equalizer is the Amazon reviews and the feedback from the readers. Now, they can make or break you. A bad review can really hurt your sales, but the good ones will help you because people trust when a reader takes the time to write and express their views on a book. They trust it, and they'll listen to another person's personal opinion, and they'll believe that. So we need those encouraging words for people to, leave their reviews for you. But there are people who are going to hire people on Fiverr or maybe some people in India to write their content and, throw up some junk ebooks. But it won't last because this is why a good, solid, and rich book that you maybe will be able to do as, electronically as well as in print will always set you apart from those. So you don't need to feel threatened or worried that there's a lot of things out there right now. Those will all go away because the good, solid ones always come back. And you're going to want to know who has written these books, like the one that you're proposing. Don't think, oh, well, I don't need to write another book. It's on, there's one out there already. If you see several books on a topic, there's a reason that book is there, and it's because people are looking for it. I used to believe that my book needed to be unique and nothing else like it on the market, but I soon realized that when a publishing house requested that I send them a champion proposal, they wanted this entailed, detailed report with all the relevant research on what was already on the market, like the book that I was proposing, including how many copies sold and who wrote what and who published what, and they wanted all the details. And I had to show them evidence that this book was going to sell. So my editor said, this is because they're going to be investing over $250,000 just to get the book in print. And they needed to know that this book was going to make money and they were going to get their investment back. So today you can see it's so much easier when you can do it for a lot less, for just a few $100s, but you can do your own research and study and find out that information. So when you think about your topics and your audience, now you need to consider what's the goal for your book. What are you writing this book for? Is it for PR? Is it for credibility? Hopefully, your reason for writing your book will be to bring more clients in for your business. I mean, that's one of my reasons for it. You can use your book to bring more leverage with media exposure, getting maybe some press releases out there, possibly more students to your school or maybe investors in your business. So if making money is why you want to write a book, it's a good reason. Even if it's just a lifelong dream or just for credibility or maybe for fame, these are all possibilities. It's all there for you. So now you know you're ready to go. You want to write a book. You've got your topic. You know it's aromatherapy, but now you got to sort of hone in on that a little more. You got to think about what's the twist, what's the relevance for today. You've got to consider more research to be exhaustive in your studies before you make your decision. We don't really need any more watered-down books, do we? We need some real fine-tuning, some really good quality books. And this is, of course, going to depend on your audience of who you're writing it for. Knowing your audience is critical. Now, if you already have a blog, then you want to listen to your subscribers and ask them, what are they interested in reading? Or what do they have a desire to know? If you have an aromatherapy school, maybe you want to ask your students, have you maybe heard of writers who have offered a free ebook for sending in a question? I had a friend do this. He actually had, I thought it took a lot of nerve, but what he did was he actually posted a query and said, okay, anyone who has a question about this particular topic, go ahead and write it in, and I will send you a free book in exchange for your time that you spent writing this question in. And now once he had about 20 questions in, he hired someone to help him put those answers together in the form of a book. And as promised, he delivered a free copy to those individuals who gave him the questions. And then he sold the rest of the books to everyone else. And he was able to put together a book in less than a month, and he made a fortune doing it. Now, I wouldn't do that personally, but that was his method. Another method he came up with was he did a lot of interviews with people. So he was able to, acquire interviews with some best-selling authors and other famous people. And then he hired someone to type out the transcripts and assemble the dialogue in the form of a book with chapters, and then he sold that for thousands. So now I haven't ever had to use any of these methods because I don't have any problems with coming up with material to write about. In fact, right now I have about 3 to 5 years scheduled out with book releases, and I've written 43 books now, and I still have other projects that are now being added to the list. So I probably will never run out of material. But my recommendation is to try to narrow your market down so that you have a better chance of reaching that market. So try not to be too generalized on, what your topic is on aromatherapy. You want to make sure that you have a book that is providing something very different and unique. content from the hundreds of other aromatherapy type books out there. Now, if you're competing with other books with the same similar topic, this is where you need to really do your research. If you really believe that your topic has not been covered, or at least not in the way that you're proposing, don't be lulled into a false sense of security that, that maybe this is something that you just really need to look into, and maybe begin your search with some of the most popular books on Amazon and spend some time researching those titles and subject matter. You might be surprised at the search results that you get, and you're going to also want to maybe check with Barnes & Noble and Smashwords. Like I mentioned before, do a Google search as well. You may find 100 books come up with those titles. There's so much out there right now. But I wouldn't say that would mean don't write a book about it, because you might have a fresh new look at this topic, and it's something that the people are looking for. And another way to approach your subject would be to help you sell, maybe if you are going to approach a traditional publisher, that it would be something you would want to know about, is what kind of competition is out there. Now, I know many of you that have been working with clients may have wonderful, engaging stories, or maybe some case studies, perhaps some interviews with top names in the field. This is something that is very attractive to publishers. This is something they love to get. So that may be something you want to consider. So let's talk about what your goal is in writing, whether it's for PR, credibility. But most aromatherapists I know who have written books, they want the exposure to reach the target audience, of course, first and foremost, right? I would think so. That's been always my goal as well. But the PR that you're going to receive as a result of being an author is really going to help as well. And this will help feed the media with interviews, maybe some book excerpts, maybe in magazines. That's really going to be the double whammy, if you will, in reaching your clients, reaching new potential alliances, those who want to hear about your book, and maybe some media exposure for you. With publishing your own book, there will be money that you're going to have to spend, okay? So you're going to need to hire someone for editing, for layout, for printing, and these are investments, but of course I think that what you sell to your own clients will offset your initial outlay. But it's always going to be a bonus when you can recoup a lot of that expenses and get it out there. So really, at the minimum, I think that with the digital and electronic ebooks, if you go that route, you're only going to spend a few $100s to get your book published. If you do the printing, you may spend a little more. So these are all the things that you're going to have to consider when you make plans for your next bestseller. Now, let's go back and look at some of these points that I've been making and sort of summarize it for you here. With over 700,000 authors out there now in the e-publishing world, certainly when you consider how many ebooks are out there on Amazon for, let's say, aromatherapy, 100? I don't know, maybe more now. I haven't checked it lately, but really consider the numbers. That's not a lot. But it's a huge industry and a field that's just growing by leaps and bounds. So let's just look at what can we bring to the table here. What are some of the new range of opportunities that we have? Maybe a dream that you have of getting your book published, something that you never thought would happen, but yet here it is, right here at your doorstep, ready to go. Let's just look at what's the first thing that we need to come up with. Well, obviously we've been talking about the subject matter, the topic, but let's think about our title. When I look at coming up with a fresh, catchy title, you really do need to consider Google Keywords Analytics or AdWords when you do this. Find words, people, or phrases that they're searching for. I mean, don't forget, it's got to make sense, right? So you're not just putting a bunch of string of keywords together, but you want to make sure that you are going to be found. That's how people are going to discover your book. Number 2, and probably is the most important one, write a book that people want to read. I know that seems obvious to say that, but think about how many people have told you that they have an idea for a book, and when you listen to them drone on about it, you know the only person that's going to read that book is their mother, right? Am I right here? Okay, but think Twitter, okay? Can you describe your book in 140 characters? If not, maybe you need to go back and refine it some more. You really need to just come up with a real quick tagline for your book. Try it out on some friends. See if they look at you sideways when you say it, or if maybe they ask a question. Maybe it perks their interest and they want to know more about it, and they'll ask a question. Now, when writing a description for your book, and this is probably one of the first things that I ever do, after coming up with an idea of a topic, I want to write out a description, and at that time, I do need to take into consideration Google keywords again. For instance, you know when you're on Amazon and when you start typing in the title for something you're looking for, words start popping up automatically in that search bar? Well, these are searches that people have already done for a particular title, and this is what's going to come up first. That's what people are looking for. And so that can help you sort of get some ideas of what people have already been searching for. Which brings me to my next point. Find as many people you can to read it and give you some opinion and feedback on it. Okay, now this is when your mother's opinion doesn't count, okay? You need honest feedback. I joined a writer's group when I lived in Miami, and I was very fortunate and blessed to be with a group that not only one, but 4 or 5 best-selling authors was in that group. That's very rare, of course. But I was also involved in the National Writers Association, and being a member in both of these groups really made a difference. We met once a month, and each month we would prepare a title or a chapter or story from our project, and we'd make copies for everyone in the group, and they would take it home and critique it. And they got to mark up the pages and offer suggestions of how to improve it. And this is really what catapulted me and took me to the next level as a writer. It was really at this group that I learned about different writing techniques, including that dreaded passive voice. If you don't know what passive voice is, go Google it. Okay, you're definitely going to want to know about that. This critique group encouraged me to write for magazines, to build my resume, and once I got a few articles under my belt, I got picked up by a publisher. And that brings me to my next and most important advice. Hire a professional editor. No, not just a friend, not just somebody who can proofread. You need someone who can really make some good, clean editorial changes and rewrites if necessary. I know people will read trash novels like 50 Shades of Grey, but, you know, and maybe they can overlook some of the horrible grammatical errors. But in the aromatherapy field, we're an entirely different breed, and it demands that it be professional and polished. So you really need to work that out. Make that part of your budget. Make it is one of the most important things is to make sure that your book is very easy and terse in its writing, is very clean and sharp. Now, when it comes to the cover, you know the old platitude, never judge a book by its cover? Okay, ignore that completely, because a good cover is one of the most important secrets to success online these days. And it has to look good as a postage stamp, okay? So when you're looking at your cover and the picture, the typeset, you need to shrink it down to the size of just about, less than an inch by an inch. And that's what the reader is going to see. And it really has to pop. Again, I would hire a professional to do this. I never do my own covers anymore. I always find someone else who has the talent as a graphic designer. And there are people online on Odesk, on elance.com, even on Fiverr. There's people that will do covers for you. So you want to take that time to make sure that you spend a lot of time getting that right. Now, I studied colors. I studied the effects on colors on people so that the book cover would be appealing to them. I wanted to make sure that it was sending the right message, because sometimes, what we think works maybe doesn't work for everybody else. And if you are already a writer and maybe you have a blog, you can really make it count. This is how you can really get your book started if you haven't already, because you probably already have the beginnings of a good book. Go back through your post and see if you already have several articles, maybe on a particular topic like pet care or flea control, using essential oils, or maybe how to use essential oils with children with autism or ADD. And if you find that you already have several articles on that topic, you can go ahead and begin to create an outline, starting with the ones that you have, and carefully lay them out in each section of the book that you're proposing. So you'll want to plan out the remaining topics for your subject by researching on Amazon, getting some books, maybe Googling, finding questions people want answers to, and so on. Now, as you begin to write your blog each day, and you're probably already doing this, but you're going to want to create each one with purpose. This will be a section in your book. And so by the end of the month, or maybe several months, you'll have a rough draft of your book. And so all you'll need to do is edit and edit and edit and edit. You're going to want to edit a lot. Now, I always work from an outline. I would really be lost without one because I'm always stopping and starting with multiple projects. I'm running 3 companies. I have 4 children, and I have so many other things going on that it's very hard to just keep my flow of thoughts. So I need to always write down what I'm doing. And I would never be able to finish a book if I didn't have one. So if you need help getting started, pull out a full of your favorite books, take a look at the table of contents, and get an idea of how you would like to lay out your book. You want to decide how many pages your book will be, how many sections and chapters, and then you can sort of figure out how many days it will take you to write it, or maybe how much you want to write each day. I always set up milestones and deadlines for finishing a book or a chapter. I never let a project just linger forever. Otherwise, you lose the taste and the vision for it, and it just sort of gets stale for you, and you can't go back. But if you miss a deadline, you can always set up another date for when you'll finish it. And of course, you got to reward yourself when you do that, okay? So you got to set up special treats like going to Starbucks for coffee or getting a nice tea from Sonny's when you reach your milestone, because that's what I do. And I'm always assuming that, this topic that you're choosing is a passion, or a topic that you have a passion for, I should say. You know it's popular. You've already checked your Google. You know that there's people searching for it, and that you have that purpose and that focus to get this book done. But don't worry too much about, the fact that maybe it's not the best. Some people get really hung up on the editorial side of it, maybe the grammatical errors in it, and really don't let that get you stuck, okay? Don't get hung up on those too much. In fact, if you ever find that maybe you can't get into that flow of writing, what I do is take out an old article and begin to start to edit it again. Because it's funny how after a couple of years, you go back and you go, oh my gosh, this is horrible. I need to rewrite this. And so you can go back and look at it. Review your progress frequently. Writing takes time. You want to consider, is it good? Is it interesting? Is it fascinating? Is it gripping? Is it useful? That's a good one, right? Is it trending? Is it something that people need? And edit and edit and edit. So I hope that
Rebecca,
was helpful for you.
This is all wonderful, wonderful stuff. Unfortunately, we're about running out of time. So if you could maybe just kind of wrap this up. I don't know if we're going to have enough time for the questions and answers, but I would love to see if somebody had some questions for you.
Yes, I'm ready for questions.
Rebecca's, all of her information is on the website. So if you have any questions, I guess we've given everybody a little bit of time here to think about it. I have a question, Rebecca. When you're talking about all of these books, and on my mind, I'm kind of curious, how many pages is a basic book for you?
Well, the books have grown. I have written from very short books, 96-page, to up to 500-page books now. I write all nonfiction. I've written for toddlers, teens, women, journals, devotionals, and now I'm writing, just for the aromatherapy market, general market, and the last book I just finished was almost 500 pages.
Wow, impressive. Now, I know that there's like a do-it-yourself publishing company out there, and honestly, for the life of me, I cannot remember what it is. I'm wanting to say P. Diddy, but I know that it's not that. It's a self-publishing company that they will go ahead and publish, and I think they'll even help with the artwork because I really have been paying very much attention to you. So it's I know that the artwork, your cover is very, very important. And I can't. And what's your opinion of Dragon Naturally Speaking?
Actually, I'm not really familiar with that. And there are hundreds of publishing companies out there now that will be more than happy to take your book and typeset it for you, get it all laid out perfectly, and make your cover design polished and shiny. You will spend money on that, and in that case, it could be well worth it. Just depends on how comfortable you are with doing it yourself. I mean, there are people that are doing books on Microsoft Word and are uploading them to Amazon and having them, like ebooks and very simple, basic books that are black and white and don't have any color or pictures in them.
Okay. Well, Dragon Naturally Speaking is a program that you can buy that you speak into the computer, I'm assuming. I think it's the computer. You speak into the computer and it types all of your words out. And I was just thinking, I'm one of those people that I can't string two sentences together and have them make sense. But I can talk. So I know that there's a lot of good information. Then a lot of our listeners out there that if they just can speak it, they can get this program. And I agree with you. I think there's a lot of good books inside of a lot of good people out there. I actually tried Dragon Speaking about 15, 20 years ago, and it never worked for me because I have a bad Southern twang. So I could never get Which is adorable,
I could never get it to understand me.
Dragon is real good. It's much more advanced now, and it does a much better job.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. Okay, well, Rebecca, I want to thank you so much for this presentation. I know that it has sparked a lot of creative juices for our members and for those of us that are listening to this. And I just want to let everybody know that this has been recorded, and she's offered us so many different helpful hints that we may want to have this CD in our library just to reference on periodically when we get those creative juices going. So, Rebecca, thank you so very much for your time and your expertise.